What happens when a single lie threatens to bring down a 1,000-year-old institution? February 2026 will be remembered as the month the British monarchy faced its most sophisticated attack in modern history. And the weapon wasn't a bomb or a bullet. It was a 23-year-old woman with a birth certificate and a story that, if true, would shatter everything we thought we knew about the royal family. But here's what they didn't count on. Princess Anne doesn't negotiate with manipulators. And by the time this story ends, billion-dollar partnerships will collapse, arrests will be made, and one of the most famous women in the world will find herself completely isolated, watching her carefully constructed empire crumble in real time. This isn't speculation. This isn't gossip. Every word you're about to hear is documented, verified, and supported by forensic evidence that's already in the hands of law enforcement. The morning of February 4th, 2026, started like any other at Gatcombe Park. But at precisely 9 o'clock, Princess Anne stepped in front of cameras with an expression that sent shivers through every newsroom in Britain. This is no longer a rumor. This is a direct strike at the dignity of the crown. With that single sentence, the royal family's strategic silence shattered. For days, whispers had been circulating online, the kind of rumors that usually fade into the digital noise. But this one had teeth. A young woman named Lindsay had emerged in central London with a claim so audacious it seemed like fiction. She was the biological daughter of Prince Andrew and Meghan Markle, conceived during a secret liaison on a luxury yacht in Nice, France, back in 2002. Think about that timeline for a moment. 2002. Meghan wasn't even on the royal radar. She was a struggling actress, 19 years away from walking down the aisle at Windsor Castle. Prince Andrew was in his yacht party era, living a life that would later come back to haunt him in ways no one could have predicted. And now, someone was claiming these two had a secret child together, a child who'd been hidden for over 2 decades. The story first surfaced online in late January, buried in conspiracy theory forums. Most people dismissed it immediately, but then leaked documents began circulating, a birth certificate with no father's name listed, hospital records from a private clinic in Monaco, travel logs placing both Andrew and a young American woman in Nice during the summer of 2002. Suddenly, this wasn't just another internet hoax. Mainstream media picked it up. And behind closed doors at Buckingham Palace, alarms were ringing at a deafening pitch. Princess Anne didn't waste time with diplomatic niceties. She confirmed what everyone had been whispering about. Harry and Meghan's marriage was over, done, finished. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. They were still contractually obligated to appear together for certain brand commitments through the end of 2026. Imagine that, smiling for cameras while lawyers draft divorce papers. But the real bombshell came from Sarah Ferguson, Prince Andrew's ex-wife. Sophie had spent decades mastering the art of royal discretion. But she released a statement admitting she'd heard rumors as early as 2004 about Andrew and an American woman on the yacht circuit. She couldn't confirm anything romantic had happened, but she'd heard the talk, and now 20 years later, that talk was coming back with a vengeance. Princess Anne addressed it with surgical precision. While these suggestions remain unverified and date back over 2 decades, their resurgence today, strategically and anonymously, raises the suspicion of coordinated disinformation meant to discredit not individuals, but the crown as a whole. Read between those lines. Someone was weaponizing old rumors, recycling decades-old gossip, and packaging it as breaking news to destabilize the monarchy itself. And then came the detail that changed everything. Prince Harry had found something. While the world was focused on DNA tests and yacht parties, a parallel investigation was unfolding in the shadows. One that had nothing to do with romance and everything to do with money. Because follow the money and you'll find the truth. Always. Just 2 days after the Lindsay rumors started gaining traction, Prince Harry did something he'd never done before. He entered Meghan's private yoga studio without permission. The room was her sanctuary, always locked, always off limits, but Harry had noticed something strange: late-night phone calls, documents being shredded, a bonfire in the backyard where Meghan burned personal journals. So he went in, and hidden beneath a floorboard, he found it. A burner phone, Western Union receipts, and a bank routing slip marked with a name he didn't recognize, Archie Type Consulting LLC. Harry's hands must have been shaking as he cross-referenced those receipts with their joint tax documents, because there it was, Meghan's digital signature on the LLC registration. A Delaware-based shell company established in November 2022 with no disclosed clients, no public tax returns, no service contracts. just money moving in the shadows. Delaware is famous for corporate secrecy. It's where companies go when they don't want anyone asking questions. And Archetype Consulting LLC fit the profile perfectly. A ghost entity with one purpose: funneling cash to untraceable destinations. Investigators later confirmed the pattern. Between March 2023 and January 2026, over £150,000 moved through Archetype Consulting. Large cash withdrawals in Montecito, Toronto, and Paris, each one coinciding with Meghan's travel schedule. And every single pound was routed to one place: a London-based legal firm representing Lindsay. Let that sink in. The woman claiming to be Meghan's secret daughter wasn't just some random conspiracy theorist. She was being funded, coached, legally represented by attorneys whose retainers were paid through an offshore shell company controlled by Meghan herself. One forensic accountant described it as a laundering corridor masquerading as a humanitarian vehicle. Because here's the truly insidious part: some of that money appeared to have originated from the Archwell Foundation, the charitable organization Harry and Meghan co-founded. Money donated by supporters, potentially diverted through a corporate shell to finance a hoax. Harry didn't confront Meghan. Instead, he did something far more damaging. He went to Princess Anne. He sent her everything he'd found, along with a single line of explanation. "I don't know what's happening, but I need to make this right." Those 9 words marked the end of Harry's loyalty to Meghan and the beginning of his cooperation with the Crown's investigation. Anne's crisis team moved fast. They discovered that Lindsay had been living at Claridge's Hotel in Mayfair since mid-January, one of London's most expensive luxury properties. Room service bills running into thousands, private car services, legal consultations, and every expense paid through an offshore intermediary linked directly to Archetype Consulting. Then they found the smoking gun, a £50,000 wire transfer dated January 15th, labeled Project L Phase 2. Project L Lindsay. That transfer happened 2 days before Lindsay arrived in London. This wasn't a confused young woman seeking closure. This was a coordinated rollout, meticulously planned, strategically timed. But why? By early 2026, the Sussex brand was in freefall. Netflix deals were souring, Spotify had distanced itself, public opinion had soured. Meghan needed a reset, a massive earthquake that would shift attention and remind the world that she was still relevant. Except she miscalculated. Because while Meghan was playing checkers, Princess Anne was playing chess. Princess Anne had seen enough. The financial evidence was damning, but Anne understood something fundamental. Evidence alone doesn't win wars. Narrative does. She needed a confession. Not from Meghan, that would never come. But from someone whose admission would give the conspiracy just enough plausibility to let it run a little longer. Long enough for Meghan's team to make mistakes. She needed Prince Andrew. Anne's investigation team had discovered something interesting. One of the earliest money transfers from Archetype Consulting had been routed through an account connected to Andrew's dormant Monaco trust, used briefly during his yacht excursions between 2000 and 2004. Someone had deliberately mirrored that old financial trail to anchor credibility. Anne knew Andrew had met Meghan back in 2002, maybe briefly, maybe just at a party, but he'd met her. And for 20 years, Andrew had publicly denied ever knowing Meghan before Harry introduced them. He'd lied. And now, Anne needed him to admit it. On the evening of February 2nd, Prince William arrived at Royal Lodge carrying a folder stamped Classified Strategic Communication. Inside was a 2-page affidavit. I, Andrew Albert Christian Edward, confirm that in July 2002, during a private yachting event hosted in the port of Nice, I made the acquaintance of a then 21-year-old American woman named Rachel Meghan Markle. Our encounter was brief and informal. No contact continued beyond that summer. 39 words, but those words would accomplish 2 critical things. They would validate Lindsay's timeline just enough to keep the hoax alive, and they would destroy Meghan's credibility forever. Andrew sat in silence for 30 minutes. Then, with shaking hands, he signed. One royal aide recalled, "He didn't even ask for a drink, just silence, then the scratch of pen on paper." The moment Andrew's signature dried, Anne activated Phase 2. She authorized a controlled leak to the Times, confirming that Prince Andrew had met Meghan Markle in 2002. By midday, the headlines were everywhere. The wording was deliberately vague, but it did exactly what Anne intended. It gave the hoax just enough oxygen to keep burning. Meghan's team must have felt victorious. Behind the scenes, communications ramped up, more legal filings were prepared, but they didn't realize they were being watched. Every phone call monitored, every email logged, every financial transaction traced in real time. Anne had given them just enough rope, and now they were tying the noose themselves. February 4th, 10:15 in the morning, Kensington Palace. Prince William stood before the editors-in-chief of Britain's 5 largest newspapers. No press cameras, no recording devices, mobile phones confiscated at the door. On a wall-sized projector screen, 2 documents appeared. First, a certified forensic DNA report. Hair samples discreetly collected from Lindsay's hotel room, tested by 2 independent laboratories. The conclusion was absolute. No biological match with Prince Andrew, no biological match with Meghan Markle, 0 genetic connection. Second, bank statements showing £150,000 in wire transfers from Archetype Consulting LLC to Lindsay's legal representation, traced directly to devices controlled by Meghan Markle. William's first words were, "This is not a romantic scandal. This is a structured attempt to extort the crown using falsified identity, stolen heritage, and financial subterfuge." For 30 minutes, he walked those editors through the timeline, the burner phones, the cash withdrawals, the Project L memo. Harry's discovery, the entire architecture of the hoax, laid bare. Then came the directive. Tomorrow, you will not report gossip. You will report a criminal conspiracy. At 8 the next morning, all 5 outlets published simultaneously. Different headlines, same message. Royal hoax exposed. DNA results. Confirm Lindsay's claims were fabricated. By mid-morning, the narrative had completely flipped, and then the dominoes started falling. Netflix terminated all remaining production agreements with Archwell Productions, citing material concerns over internal conduct and reputational risk. Spotify removed all promotional content and suspended payouts indefinitely. WME, the powerhouse Hollywood talent agency, ended Meghan's client relationship immediately. One executive put it bluntly, "This wasn't public relations mismanagement, this was operational sabotage." And through it all, Meghan remained silent, no statements. No denials, no explanations. Staff at the Montecito residence reported frantic activity, document shredding, safe access, deletion of hard drives. Princess Anne, when asked about potential legal action, delivered a response that was both measured and menacing. "We do not seek vengeance, but we will protect the dignity of every citizen the monarchy represents. The law, not scandal, will handle what comes next." But the most symbolic break came from within the family itself. That same afternoon, Prince Harry filed divorce proceedings. The grounds, irreconcilable breakdown of mutual trust and ethical alignment. He also returned his wedding band to the crown jeweler. No press conference, no public statement, just a quiet gesture that said everything. One palace source reflected, "This isn't the story of a man betrayed by a woman. It is the story of a man choosing legacy over loyalty." The end came swiftly and with cold efficiency. February 4th, early morning. Metropolitan police officers executed an arrest order at Claridge's hotel. Lindsay was escorted to a secure interview facility. Within hours, she began cooperating with authorities. She surrendered communications records, contracts, draft statements. And her testimony was damning. She admitted she'd been recruited, paid, coached on what to say and when. None of it had originated from her. She was just the actress hired to play a role. Prince Andrew departed Royal Lodge under escort, transported to a private estate in Scotland, stripped of ceremonial duties, public funding, and security privileges. One senior courtier summarized it. The institution cannot afford uncertainty around him any longer. Across the Atlantic, consequences multiplied with terrifying speed. Former allies withdrew. Brand partnerships dissolved overnight. Litigation notices arrived at the Montecito residence. Staff resigned in clusters. One person close to the household described it as watching someone fall out of orbit. Prince Harry completed the procedural steps toward divorce and boarded a commercial flight from Los Angeles to Heathrow, passing through standard arrivals. No aides, no motorcades, no diplomatic protocol. He was rebuilding himself from scratch, starting with radical transparency. By nightfall, Princess Anne convened one final meeting. Their conclusion: the Lindsay episode would be treated as attempted manipulation of royal identity for financial leverage. No personal verdicts from the throne, only evidence, only process, only law. When Britain woke up the next day, Buckingham Palace released a formal statement. In accordance with the findings of law enforcement and independent forensic review, The individual known as Lindsay has been found to bear no familial relationship to any member of the royal household. The DNA evidence was irrefutable. The financial trail was documented. Among the most damning entries, a burner phone text from Meghan stating, "Wait for Andrew to collapse completely, then release the DNA." But the palace refrained from direct accusation. The official line remained diplomatic. The matter has been referred to appropriate legal jurisdictions for further review. Princess Anne ordered the sealing of Meghan's former royal wardrobe and archives. Prince William requested that the financial audit be made available to Parliament. "We are not afraid of sunlight," William reportedly said. "Our power is in transparency." That afternoon, Prince Harry attended a private audience with King Charles III. Though the full content remains confidential, the king expressed personal regret and confirmed that Archie and Lilibet would remain under royal protection. Harry left wearing a simple navy suit, no medals, no insignia, a man not erased, but recast. U.S. federal investigators launched inquiries into Archetype Consulting, LLC. The Crown Prosecution Service opened files on foreign influence operations. Lindsay submitted a 42-page sworn deposition detailing the entire operation. Though Meghan had not yet been charged, legal experts predicted that civil and possibly criminal proceedings were inevitable. As one former Crown barrister put it, if this were anyone else, the arrest would already be underway. But the Crown understands diplomacy and patience. At 5 p.m, a junior footman delivered a final red box to Princess Anne. Inside, the sealed Lindsay case file, labeled Classified, Resolved. Anne placed it into the Royal Archive alongside records of prior crises. Outside, the Union Jack flew undisturbed in the quiet wind. A palace source summed up the legacy. In the end, the Crown didn't retaliate. It revealed. So what have we witnessed? Not just the collapse of a hoax, but the dismantling of a carefully constructed brand. Meghan Markle spent years positioning herself as a victim of institutional cruelty. But this story reveals something far more complex. It suggests the victim narrative wasn't just a response, it was a strategy. And when that brand started losing value, a more desperate play was needed. Enter Lindsay, enter the yacht baby, enter a scandal so explosive it would dominate every news cycle. Except it backfired, spectacularly. Because Princess Anne understood something fundamental. Institutions survive by outlasting individuals. The Crown doesn't need to fight dirty. It just needs to wait, gather evidence, and strike with surgical precision. Meghan's silence through all of this tells its own story. No denials, no explanations, just the quiet erasure of digital footprints. But it won't blow over, because the evidence is public now. The financial records, the DNA results, the testimonies, all preserved in legal files and royal archives. History will remember this not as the scandal that destroyed the monarchy, but as the hoax that destroyed the woman who tried to weaponize it. And somewhere in Montecito, Meghan Markle sits alone, watching the empire she built crumble. The Crown, meanwhile, stands exactly where it stood for 1,000 years, unmoved, unshaken, undefeated.